Salutation.
Shut up! Silence! We're not doing this again, Maddie. We've been here before, my boy. We're not do this again. Don't salutate me. Don't salutate. Do I look like I'm in the mood to be salutated? No.
Couple of hours via a digital
Couple of hours. Some people are saying Fextra Life said 8 hours. So from 2 to 8, whatever.
view opportunity provided by Xbox, so I got to play it here in the comfort of my own home. And this preview
He's really saying I didn't get flown like anywhere. I played it in my house. He said, I played in my house. You know, I slept in my bed that I paid for, and I, ate the snacks that I paid for.
is really well timed because Xbox has been insisting for a while that Avowed was delayed out of 2024 because, there's just a lot of games coming out right now, particularly in the realm of Xbox. You had Stalker 2, you had Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 when it's actually playable, Black Ops 6, and of course Indiana Jones is coming up soon as well.
I forgot
so
that
it kind of
Indiana
made
Jones.
sense, but the timing of this preview is great because the rumor was that Avowed was going to release in November. So taking a look at this build was a odd angle for me to be like, what if it did come out this month? How would we be feeling about it? So it's a good... I got to see the game's first open area in Dawn Shore and explore all it had within it. I also got to see the game's prologue and character creator. I can talk about that with you. I'll get into all of it, but first, a quick word from today's sponsor. The following video is sponsored by...
Una mierda.
The main thing that stood out to me while playing Avowed is the open-ended level design. This is really different from any Obsidian game you've played before. It's very different from Fallout New Vegas, where you could just talk your way through things. It's very different from the Outer Worlds.
It's given Baldur's Gate 3, Baldur's Gate, the city Baldur's
where
Gate.
you could definitely shoot or talk your way through things. In this game, you can stealth. In this game, there are multiple options of approach, and I found it to be refreshingly great and fitting for an Obsidian game because the choice wasn't just in its dialogue and how I would handle...
That's literally like, what's her name? From the Outer Worlds. Like, that's her haircut.
But also how I would crawl about the level.
Okay, so silent protagonist. Okay. Surely there's an address registry in the access circus you could consult. I might be able to find one. Hey, I just got here. I'm as lost as you. Okay. Don't mind me if I'm quite skeptical about the game. I did like the Outer Worlds, so I am hoping, I'm genuinely hoping, I come to this with the hope that it's gonna be great and that it's gonna make me forget about the things that I don't like. Mainly this art style of this I don't care about. The colors I don't care about.
In this opening area where
I don't like the UI at all. I know that this might be because he's like this person is playing on controller. It's giving me PTSD, like the UI. PTSD, it's giving me the UI. I don't like it. I don't like it. The font, there's something about the font that I don't with either.
They keep things tame, but it was really well done, and I was enjoying the moment-to-moment exploration of seeing things in the distance going, hey, what is that out there? And checking it out and finding something cool within. That was a great feeling that I've missed for a long while. But really, I think the level design clicked for me when I was approaching a Zorip base. And it was this fortress that was just full of enemies. And I went through pretty much head on up the middle. And it wasn't until afterwards that I was doing what I call a loot sweep, checking out all the dead bodies, seeing what I missed along the way. Now everyone's dead, I can freely pick from all the chests and everything.
I'm excited about Exodus. Yes, I'm excited about Exodus, the community.
Asleep next to an explosive container. So I figured, well, this is an easy kill. So I shot the explosive container, and it popped open a hole in the wall that opened up a completely different entrance to this fortress that would have allowed me to enter from the backside and actually got a couple more stealth kills than the more guns blazing approach that I had took.
Isn't it like huge?
From the backside
the UI?
And actually got a couple more stealth kills than the more...
Isn't the UI like huge? Maybe there's something also that it's with me, like the font and the UI and everything. It's like Are you excited about Exodus? Yes! Coño! It's really big. You know? I don't know. Something I don't care about.
Quite literally, I did have a gun in my hand in this fantasy game. It's wild. We'll talk about builds in...
I do not know anything about Pillars of Eternity. I might play it, or I will play the other games before. Because I don't know if having guns is normal, whatever, you know?
Or quiet. You can also use the elements to reach different areas. For example, I'll use a fire spell, or I told Kai to use his fire spell.
Flashbacks to Veilguard in the crossroads. Ah!
Burn down some spider webs. So you'll have moments like that throughout. And I'm not judging it because it is early on in the game, but I do hope for the rest of the game these become more complex and kind of reward my creativity in a way like I'd say a Breath of the Wild does, because the interactivity is there. So I'm hoping that
I don't like
does
the I don't like the symbols.
elevate as the game goes on, and that these were just kind of training wheel moments. If it is just as it is, it'll be fine. I just think maybe a little bit of missed potential there. Because again, I think the real heartbeat of this game, I mean, you have the Obsidian elements there in dialogue and in choice. We'll talk about that. But it really is this level design. And I feel like if they tap into the maximum potential for that, you got something really good here. Now, all of this exploration I did was actually never interrupted by loading screens. Like, once I got to Dawn Shore, I was there. But that also means that...
I did. I got banned from EA Play. What are you guys going to do about it? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? 7 days. 7 days I got banned from, EA Plays. 7 days. Oh, no? What am I going to do?
Stumbling upon some ruins.
Yeah, I don't like the symbols
A sprawling dungeon
Hopefully
within,
you can turn
at least
them off.
not yet. You know, I found when I was playing in third person, which we'll also talk about in a little bit, this tower, and I was scaling it, platforming it, and at the end I found this totem that you can set up within your camp, and I guess there's multiple of these collectibles, and so that's kind of the driver for the exploration
It's
of this
looking rough around the edges. It's looking rough. I don't know.
That's going to
I
scale
go put in
out,
timeout.
but I kept getting really unique pieces of weapons and armor that look completely different from anything else I was seeing in the game, which you already know, that just drives me forward. That just checks something off for me that goes so far. You can't go everywhere, at least not right away. There is a little bit of rubber banding. For example, I found a godless ruin, and it was inhabited by a bunch of bandits, and they were kind of like tier 2, it seemed like. They had a little number 2 next to their health bars, and I tried to take them out anyway, but they wiped your boy out really quickly. So I had to stay humble and live to fight another day. I'll come back to them
looks better in
a
third
bit
person,
later.
yeah.
So you can't just go complete unhinged exploration.
Looks unfinished.
But there is a...
And it was supposed to come out this year, but now they say that it's coming out next year because it doesn't want to like interfere with other releases. I don't know.
A lot of fulfilling stuff to find. I found an abandoned shack, and I ended up jumping on the roof and breaking down the roof itself and dropping
Wasn't
in
next
and
clown
finding a
video?
chest.
I don't know, man. We'll see.
So there is a lot of good stuff to find here, and I just loved exploring the levels because, especially as someone who loves Obsidian games, it was just very...
Don't say that. Mari, I don't want you to, I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but don't say statements like, oh, as a fan of a company or as a fan of this, because more often than not, whatever you say after that, people don't give a shit about.
very different. Like, most of the times you're just on the ground, and I appreciate that. That's totally fine for me. So this is a big evolution in that, and I think they've handled it really well so far. Now, when you're not exploring, you can settle down at party camps. You can upgrade stuff while you're at the party camps, but I think the best draw here is going to be having a chat with your party members. So I got to sit down and talk with Kai, and this is a good time to highlight something I mentioned in my first preview of Avowed, which is that the conversations in this game can be very long in a good way. Like, I love that when I'm choosing to settle
at least
down,
you can have like
have
a
a
talk
chat
with
with
your
one of my party
companions.
members, that we can really get into the weeds of it. Like, we were just recapping all the things that happened since we first met, and then there were plenty of questions
I hate
afterwards
this
that
guy.
I could have asked Kai
Not him.
just to learn more
His
about
design.
him, learn more about this world. And I
Don't
just love
fuck
how,
with it.
similar to a older BioWare game, I can just dive deep into these characters and spend a lot of time.
I love the older BioWares, like BioWare games. Like, not recent, older BioWare titles. Okay? Who is the company with the VI of Garrus?
Just to learn more.
No! Oh, I will you, Kai. Fine!
At nighttime, when you're at the party camp, the way the lighting is done, the way the environment looks.
You couldn't romance people in the Outer Worlds. If they snap me of romancing Garrus as a fish, there's gonna be hell to pay.
Really, really pretty game. And I mean, just, it's a looker in general. I mentioned this in my first preview as well back in August, but I feel even more sure now that this is Obsidian's best looking game.
¿Cómo que no romance? Yo me cago en vuestra putísima estampa. ¿Cómo que no romance? Pero es que yo me cago en vuestra puta madre. The Outer Worlds, I could wingman for Parvati in the other, but I cannot fuck the bruh.
One of the better looking games I've seen in recent memory. The world, the character models, the lighting. It's just really well done. But this is where there's a little bit of an asterisk on that. We delayed the game because it was just a better month for the game to release in, and as well, better for the Xbox business, because there are technical hiccups that you'll find. Example, when I was first starting to explore Dawnshore, it is very pretty, but I was seeing the world loading in right before my eyes. Just sets of trees, buildings, things were constantly loading in before me. Fortunately, we do have a few months until the games are released where that is something I can imagine is ironed out. However, this doesn't scream to me, yeah, the game was pretty good to go, but we just wanted to give it a few extra months because that's better for our players. The frame rate does dip a decent amount when you're in third person as well. It's definitely below 60 FPS, not coming close to 30, at least in my experience with playing on my PC, which has a 3080 8-core processor and 32 gigabytes of RAM. But the frame rate does dip. And also, I mean, as much as I like the third person, I wish there was a quick hotkey to switch to that, at least.
I care about romance. I care about romance because I want my character to fuck the least human-looking companion in that party. Do you understand me? Are you crystal clear, transparent about why I want romances? Do you understand me? Do you understand that I saw Garrus in Mass Effect 1 when I first played it, and I wanted to climb that Velociraptor like a tree? That's where I'm coming from. And what about it? Don't fuck the more for me?
Game options menu.
I don't
that
with
on because I went first into the controls and thought, oh, maybe it's just not in this build at all. But then I found it, again, as I mentioned earlier, in the game options. So you have to switch it on and off.
Yeah, I'm with B. I don't understand why they gave... I think they saw like criticism about the looks of the game and they were trying to reassure people, but at the same time is not good enough for the people to be reassured. I'm not with this at all.
And this kind of stinks because one thing I love in, say, any BGS game is I'll get a new piece of armor or a new weapon, I'll equip it, I'll go in third person, check myself out, admire my look for a moment, and then I'll go back to first person. The fact that I have to go into menus and swap that out, at least right now, I hope it's something they can figure out where there's a hotkey you can press to kind of just flip between these two, because man, oh man, would it be a difference maker. There was also one conversation I had with an ambassador where the audio just straight up disappeared when I first met him. And at first I thought like, oh, it's an earlier build from where the game is supposed to come out. Maybe this line just hasn't been recorded yet.
I don't with the animations. It looks worse than... It looks worse than the Outer Worlds. Why? Why? I remember the Outer Worlds looking much better. Am I wrong? It had a style for sure, but it looked much better.
Someone is start
Silence! I have not given you permission to speak. Right? So why? Even the animations and everything. It has a style, but it's much better. And I understand that it's not, but the look of it, it's releasing next year, and it was gonna release this year, Avowed. So how is it that unpolished? Is my question. The UI I like much more. I don't like that it's right here, the UI. I like it here. This is better for me. It looks better. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And they would have made money out of the Outer Worlds because it sold pretty well. Better than they probably expected. So why are we going backwards? And it's an established franchise and people like Pillars of Eternity. So why are we... What's going on here? There's something that is not clicking here.
Now on the game,
What is
but I
it?
just want to make sure you all, through my experience, can at least read through some of the corporate speak that...
Mari, my man. Did he really say, oh, so you guys can read between the lines and you don't get like scammed like I did when I played Veilguard, you know what I mean?
Now, on the gameplay side of things, oh my word, there have been some improvements since that August build I played. For starters, the overlines on finishers isn't
Mari
really
has
there
PTSD
anymore.
from Veilguard.
That was something I complained about because it just felt like every enemy I was killing was going into a weird, long, janky slow motion, and then you'd pop the enemy, they'd be dead, and it was cool at first. Long, janky slow motion, and then you'd pop the enemy.
I rebuke thee, Satan! I rebuke thee! I cannot do this anymore! No! Ugh! Icky! No, I don't fucking like this. It's giving Veilguard. Ooh, no, I hate this actually. Yeah.
They'd be dead, and it was cool
Everything reminds me of him.
at first, but it was happening so many times. Now there's a stun gauge. When
I
you
don't
stun
like
the
it,
enemy,
bro.
You
I
can
don't
choose. It
like
is fulfilling
it,
because you have to work
no.
to stun them. So when you do let loose that big attack, especially with like the wand, when I did it on this bear boss after I met the
I don't have the numbers either.
ambassador, I was just, oh my god, man! I like brought up a bunch of elements from the ground itself. It was actually really cool. I was like, that felt satisfying, and that's where I realized, like, okay, this is. I haven't seen this until this point in time. That's a much better balance compared to what we were getting before in that earlier build. So less of a reliance on that. I think the visual feedback is where
The difference between the Outer Worlds and Avowed is that the Outer Worlds is a shooter, and this is supposed to be a fantasy RPG. And the difference is vast between those two genres. The line is completely blurred nowadays, where people are trying to make it seem like these two are interchangeable, and the gameplay for Mass Effect and Dragon Age is completely interchangeable because it's just the same. I snipped a moth. It's just the same. One is like set in a fantasy world, the other is it's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same, not the same. Let me click the abilities, bro. Let me click them abilities. Give me a pause. And then I can click this and this. Can you switch to your companions? Doubtful. I don't with this. And I don't want this to be a industry standard, because it's what we're doing now. One God of War does well, and everything needs to be God of War, and it becomes a industry standard. That. It. That. Bruh. I understand that the Outer Worlds sold relatively well, and that did well, but that was a shooter. A shooter. And I understand that it's made by the same company, but that doesn't mean that they cannot do different gameplays. Just because you did one thing doesn't mean like, you're stuck in that box and you cannot change anything. If you're doing a fantasy game, just lean to that. If you're doing a fantasy RPG, you have to lean into that. Just like Baldur's Gate 3 leaned into that. Okay? And it has to be, more brainy thinky. Sorry. fans of first person shooters. My bad. Nowadays, things like this are like the same with Veilguard. It's an action game with RPG like elements. You know what I mean? So I don't know about that.